Hello there. My name is Ny'Asia McKinstry. I am a sophomore psychology major, child development minor, attending Spelman College. This is me now. See, I haven't always been this way. The people, events, and experiences of my life have shaped my development into the young woman that I am today. This is my story. This is where it all began. I was born October 5th, 1993 to Doris Allen and Lonnie McKinstry Jr. in Kansas City, Missouri. I was raised in the South Jamaica area of Queens, New York, where I would spend much of my childhood and teenage years. From as early as I can remember, my grandfather played a significant role in my life. Especially in my early years, he helped nurture me and instilled in me many values that I have today. When I was 4 years old, my sister Akira Allen was born. Her birth changed my world significantly, as I had to adapt to not being the only child. It also served as a time of realization for me. Before she was born, I had not realized that a piece of me was missing. Someone was missing. I had also never experienced interacting with a baby, which I quickly developed a love for. As she grew up, we became inseparable, and she taught me how to truly love and care for someone, for a sister. Kindergarten through third grade was a time that I experienced significant growth as an individual. With the help of teachers such as Mrs. Jackson and Mrs. Nugent, who worked with my mother to help me succeed, I was able to gain confidence in my intellectual abilities, leadership skills, and altogether my personal confidence. Around second grade, there was a pivotal change in my life. My parents had divorced and my father married my stepmother, Sylvia McKinstry. This life-changing event was one that brought not only another woman, who I bitterly and childishly thought would take my father from me, but an older brother that would end up becoming my partner in crime. These individuals and experience in itself was a lot for me, but ultimately became a major influence on the person I am today. From my stepmother and father's new marriage, I was able to develop a strong sense of family, though it took years, and different ways of looking at situations, as I had the guidance of 3 parents. In my early years, I attended Fee-Away Daycare Center for after-school and summer camp. My experiences there with the other children allowed me to develop my social skills, as I was a Fee-Away child for many years. It was there that I learned how to effectively handle conflict situations, intergroup and intragroup issues at school, and how to be a true friend. It was also there that my interest and passion for babies truly began. In the middle of 4th grade, my mother, sister, and I moved to Philadelphia. It was here that I suffered a loss of my confidence, as academically I was behind, coming from New York, and socially I was awkward, coming from a predominantly black neighborhood to one that was predominantly white. Living in Philadelphia allowed me to get a more advanced education and was my first time experiencing consistent interactions with culturally different individuals. That experience overall was one that brought with it much personal development, as I had to essentially adapt to an entirely different setting with people who were very different from what I was accustomed to. After 2 years, we moved back to New York, living in the Bronx. I was happy to be back in my city, and even happier that I lived with my cousin who was the same age as me. Looking back, I see that we gradually matured together, as we were in middle school and going through puberty at the same time. My experience in the Bronx was also one that broadened my multicultural exposure, as we lived in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. The short time I lived there was a developmental milestone in itself because it helped shape my character significantly. It was during these 2 years that I became aware that I was different from my peers. While many were focused on uplifting themselves socially and materialistically, I was much more focused on setting future goals and planning how I would achieve them, even at a young age. That was only the first step in developing this mindset, which I still have today. When we moved back to Queens, I was in 7th grade and had to reestablish myself. Throughout 7th and 8th grades, I excelled tremendously and remained very reserved. It was in 8th grade that I met my best friend, Neri Mills, who would attend the same high school as me, the only other person from my school. These years, I focused mainly on my education, continuing to develop and reestablish my social identity, as it had been lost over the years. To me, it was as if moving away for what seemed like forever had wiped out the possibility of me ever being the original person that I was. High school was a time of mixed emotions for me. While I absolutely despised my school because I was yet again the minority and felt like it, I loved every second of my experience because it allowed me to get closer to my best friend. We did everything together. We were literally like sisters. Together, we led the school step team, which would play a great part in further developing my leadership skills. I was able to become more of an individual as I could finally express myself in a way that I loved. Two teachers of mine, Miss Koo and Mr. Gale, also enhanced my experience and contributed to my development greatly. Together, they served as my mentors and helped me further realize my passion for education. During the summer after my freshman year, I was an independent child care provider for two sisters. One was 5 months old and the other 2 years old. Though I was initially nervous about taking on such responsibility, I soon learned to love it, and that experience was a confirmation of my career interest in child care. It was that summer that I decided that I would go to college for child development and ultimately establish my own child care center. Even now, as a college sophomore, that remains my ultimate goal. Towards the end of my high school experience, my relationship with my mother took a slight change for the worse, and my sister began having severe behavior problems that affected the climate at home. At the same time, I was taking an introductory college-level psychology course that my sister's psychologist had encouraged me to take. I immediately loved the course and psychology as a subject, and with all of my issues at the time, I delved into it even more. It was then that my interest in studying psychology was sparked, and I became determined to find a way to combine both of my interests. Another major factor that played a great part in my academic choices was my taking part in a summer internship in the education department of the Apollo Theater. As an intern, I gained much knowledge and insight into the different aspects of education, and this information solidified my choice to work with children. After speaking with my mentor there, I decided that I would study both psychology and child development in college, combining the two subjects that I had become so passionate about. As I prepared to leave home for college, my baby brother Justin was born on my mother's side. His birth was yet another event that caused significant changes in my life, as I had to adapt to having a baby around. But this time I wouldn't have enough time to get to know him, as I would be leaving soon. In the short amount of time that I had, I spent as much as I could with him, and this furthered my desire to work with children, specifically babies. As the time got closer and closer for me to leave, I became more and more confident of what I would study at Spelman, as well as what I would ultimately pursue as a career. My first year of college was one of great achievement and development. My first time away from home, it brought many opportunities and experiences for learning. A significant but heartbreaking experience was the passing of my friend Kyle, who I had become very close to while I was away at school. Losing Kyle was something that impacted my life tremendously, as it left me feeling as if there was a vacant spot that could never be replaced. That experience was to me somewhat counterproductive in my development, yet it taught me so much about life and changed my way of thinking. It has brought me much pain and suffering, yet it continues to influence me and helps me to grow as a person as I continue to push forward in life. The summer after my freshman year, I studied abroad in Trinidad and Tobago for a month. That experience influenced me tremendously because it was my first time traveling outside of the country and allowed me to experience the Caribbean lifestyle firsthand. It was a developmental milestone for me as it allowed me to grow mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. A friend who I met from Tobago, Melvin Isaac, is a significant individual in my life now, as he taught me so many little yet important lessons that I've carried with me. Most importantly, he helped me to see the importance of practicing and maintaining self-control, which has since allowed me to grow as an individual and will continue to do so. Starting my second year of college was nothing to me, as I have become accustomed to the college lifestyle. My closest friends, Kayla and Cameron, have greatly influenced my life and continue to contribute to my development as we grow together. The experiences of college have been and continue to shape the person who I am. As I continue to grow, I know that there will be many more events and experiences that will shape my development into the future professional and woman I will be.